What's up, guys? Welcome to the Young Guns podcast. And today we're going to be discussing our projected roster for Team USA's uh, team, obviously, for the 2022 Beijing Olympics. As you guys know, there's been this whole talk right now that Canada and the States might boycott it. Um, so we're gonna go in and continue with our projections just in case
Well, they
things.
just announced their jerseys too, so
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure
Yeah,
everything's
but
set in motion right
yeah,
now. I think
yeah.
everything's gonna be fine and moving forward. But we got a little bit of a scare last week. That's why we postponed our video for to today because we had no idea what was gonna happen. We didn't want to make a video that was not going to be relevant the situation right now. So we're glad that everything's back on track. And yeah, today we're going to be discussing our picks for Team USA's roster.
So obviously we're gonna start off in net, and obviously like Team Canada, the states they have a good amount of goaltenders that there was to choose from, and one name that we didn't mention that a lot of people have started to talk about a little bit. Now I don't think he makes it, but I think a lot of people have started talking about is Jack Campbell of the Toronto Maple Leafs.
What about Mackenzie Blackwood?
Uh, he's
Oh,
Canadian.
Canadian, right? My
Right?
bad.
And so
Sorry.
Jack Campbell's been a big talking point about him potentially making Team USA. But the three goalies that we decided to go with were Connor Hellebuck, Thatcher Demko, and John Gibson. Now, Thatcher Demko obviously hasn't had the greatest start to the year, and that's where I think there might be a switch if there is, where I think they may go with Campbell over
Gibson.
Demko if they have to.
I
No,
think Gibson would be the backup goalie.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
that's
Gibson's
where
definitely
he's
the
playing
backup
pretty
goalie.
good.
that's where I think it's going to be. I think the one that I'm unsure about, and I think both of us, a lot of us are too, or like the two of us are too, or the three of us are too. Sorry, is that John Gibson? Sorry, not John Gibson. Thatcher Demko is going to be potentially taken out for Jack Campbell. That's how I see it. Because
So
I think
him and
Jack
Campbell interchangeable, basically.
yeah, it could be either or, in my opinion. But I think John Gibson and Connor Hellebuck are locks, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
because you look at John Gibson and Hellebuck, what they do for their respective teams. They're not the best teams in the league, but for a good portion of the past seasons, including this season, they're always consistent all the
Yeah.
time. You know,
Especially
uh,
John Gibson.
yeah, especially him. So it's unfortunate that his team is not great. I mean, this year there's been progress, and you've seen it, and it's promising for the Ducks looking moving forward. So I mean, John Gibson is a very underrated goalie just on a mediocre team.
Well,
So,
they're good this year. They've played well so
yeah,
far.
but they're
Yeah.
mediocre.
Yeah, but they're still right now. They're a team that, if you look at the standings right now, they're one of the best teams in the league,
Yeah, and
which is surprising.
and he
but
and he always
when you
has
have that,
surprisingly good numbers on a mediocre team. So Hellebuck, for years they've complained that their defense has been crap ever since Dustin Bufflin left, and this year they somewhat stabilized a little bit defensively, but Connor Hellebuck's still doing his thing, and like Luca was saying before, Thatcher Demko had a great end of the season last season to close off the season for the Vancouver Canucks, despite all the COVID cases and them not making the playoffs. But unfortunately, they're having a bad start to the season. But in my opinion, I do value Demko more than Campbell as a goaltender.
I think in terms of NHL experience, I think Demko wins. But I think because of how impressed, you can't deny that Jack Campbell's been impressive for Toronto this season, and
Yeah.
even last year when he came in, he looked really good. In the playoffs, I don't think he was the problem. I think in the end there was a lot more factors that led to it. But I think in terms of Jack Campbell as a goaltender, I can see a situation where Team USA goes, you know what? Demko hasn't really been great. And I think in a situation where we want to give a guy more experience and kind of give, like the Carter Hart situation that we talked about for Team Canada, a guy that, can use the experience of playing in the Olympics as an advantage for him. I think Jack Campbell has an opportunity to at least fight for that spot
Yeah,
as the
definitely.
third goalie. But like you said, arguably in terms of NHL experience, and if you have to go with a guy with more NHL experience, I'm going to take Thatcher Demko. But I would not be surprised at all to see Jack Campbell make the team. No question. Chris,
What are your thoughts?
Well, I don't think he's gonna be the backup goalie. That's for sure.
Who,
Jack
Demko?
Campbell?
Jack Campbell.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
definitely
think
not.
the starter and the backup is Gibson and
I think
Hellebuck.
Yeah.
I think it would be. I wouldn't be surprised if Gibson actually plays a few games, like fully.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
he might
definitely
get
will.
he might get a game or two. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he's been playing well. It actually, you could argue he's playing just as good as Connor Hellebuck is right now. So, and
Well,
the team is mediocre. And look at the defense that he's going to be in front of. That's going to be in front of him.
normally in the
So
group stage, the backup goalie gets 1 or 2 games.
They usually get like I think in their group it's
like the
Canada. It's gonna
non-important
be
game.
it's gonna be Canada, USA, and maybe Canada, USA, Germany, and China. Well, or maybe Norway, because there's rumors that China might be pulled out, but that's a
Oh
whole
wow.
other situation. But the point is that I think if they do give Gibson a game, they might give it to him against China or whoever, which essentially wouldn't even be a test for him, but he'd get a game in if that's what you know.
Whatever.
Anyways, moving on to the defense.
And
Chris-
before we get a little bit of like comments saying that Fox is playing on the third pairing. Keep in mind, since this whole team is like pretty stacked, I'm pretty sure they're all going to play somewhat even time.
yeah,
We basically like what we did with Team Canada. We tried coming up with the best line combinations.
Yeah.
it has
Uh,
nothing to do with necessarily the player's skill. It has to do with what we think balances and what we think fits.
Yeah, exactly. So, Adam Fox is the current Norris winner. So we're not discrediting him from anything. He's a fantastic player, but
He's having a 6 season this
we're
year.
going based on like what we feel is the most balanced defensive pairings. So starting off with
The
the
first
first
pairing.
pairing, we got the ex Columbus first pairing.
Who have been both playing great.
Yeah,
So
we have
far.
Zach Werenski and
Seth Jones, I'm not impressed with, but that's besides the
He's
point.
playing pretty good.
He's offensively. he's been playing-
Defensively, he's still a
but
liability.
Yeah, but
defensively, the
offensively-
team as a whole.
But defensively, he's been a liability. But offensively, he's starting to pick up the pace a little bit. Werenski, for me, is honestly, I was a big fan of Zach Werenski when Seth Jones was there in Columbus because I thought them two together played really, really well.
fantastic.
But
pairing.
I think Zach Werenski, ever since Seth Jones has left, I think he's taken the next step. He's a defenseman that I think he's underappreciated at times. I don't think people realize how good he is offensively, but he's also got he's also got a really good defensive side of the game as well. So for him, I think on Team Canada, next to obviously his old
Team USA.
partner, Team USA with his
Get
old
this guy a
partner
pillow.
in Seth Jones, I think it's going to help them. But that's a really good top line. I think, in my opinion, I think that's a top line that could see a lot of minutes in the Olympics. for
and
sure.
people are probably going to be like, why is Zach Werenski playing the first defensive pairing, not Adam Fox or Quinn Hughes? Well, you have to take into consideration that last season, his season was cut short because it was an injury-prone season for him, and he was out for majority of the season. But when he was healthy, he did play very well. And you have to also take into consideration there was the whole Dubois and Tortorella fiasco. Columbus, was in shambles. So it wasn't like, the best,
Says Jones saying he wanted out.
yeah, it wasn't the best like place for them, last season. So you can't really discredit him. But if you look at his overall career, especially this season,
Yeah, they played well.
he deserves to be there. And I think he's a very underappreciated defenseman. So let's move on to the second pairing. We have Quinn Hughes and John Carlson.
For me,
Defensive defenseman with an offensive one.
well, I mean, they're both kind of offensive defensemen in my opinion.
Well, my opinion,
Quinn
Hughes
Hughes is
can't
not-
defend for his
Yeah.
life.
And this is the thing that I was thinking about when talking about this. I don't know if Quinn Hughes makes the top six, and hear me out. I know we put Quinn Hughes there, but you look at
I would
you
swap
look at-
out Slavin.
yeah, and that's what I was thinking. I think Slavin gets the top six role over
Yeah.
Quinn Hughes, and one reason why Quinn Hughes defensively is not great. I don't think he's had a good start with Vancouver this year either. Mind you, nobody on Vancouver's had a good start, but
Even last season, he
right,
was kind of shaky.
defensively, he's really, really a liability. Quinn Hughes, he's good offensively, one of the best guys offensively I've seen, but defensively, he's a liability. And I think that might be the reason why he makes Team USA, but I don't know if he plays as in the top six. Whereas Jacob Slavin, he's a stay-at-home defenseman. He's more of a defensively minded defenseman as well. He can play the offensive side of the game
Yeah.
where he can put the puck in the net, whatever. But next to a guy like John Carlson, I think it makes more sense to have Slavin there because he'll make John Carlson bring the puck up kind of offensively and do whatever he wants, and leave Jacob Slavin to be more of the defensive side of things, which could work for Team USA definitely.
But
So that's the
yeah.
only thing I would switch is Hughes and Slavin.
But
if we
again,
had
the
to.
same thing with Team Canada's pairings. Both Team USA and Team Canada both have defensemen that play a two-way game. They're able to play offensively and defensively. But obviously, there's some guys that are more offensive and more defensive. But you have a couple names right there. For example, you have McAvoy, who plays a two-way type of game. You have Slavin that plays a two-way type of game. You have Rowinski who plays a two-way type of game. Fox, I think he's more offensive.
Yeah,
in my
but
opinion.
he's
good
got
defensively.
he's very. I like Fox defensively. I think Fox he's a lot better than Quinn Hughes defensively. I think he still has a little bit of miss. Like he's still missing that piece defensively where I think he still needs to improve a little bit.
Yeah.
But Adam Fox, for me, in my opinion, I think he's top 5 in the league defenseman, like
Yeah.
all round, right? And so obviously he won the Norris last year, but the point is with that pairing especially, I love that third pairing, by the way. Adam Fox and Charlie McAvoy
It's a
together.
beautiful pairing.
You could argue they might be a top.
They might even be the top pairing,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
to say a lot. But I love both defensemen. I think they're both really, really good defensemen. I think together they're going to be fantastic. And I think Team USA, especially with those two guys, they've got two absolute elite caliber defensemen.
Like we discussed when we were making the projections for each team, Team USA, in our opinion, has the best defensive.
The best
depth.
back, but we'll get into the.
We'll get to the forwards after. But
Yeah,
I think
forwards,
defensively,
different
I think they're
story.
better than Canada. Yes.
Yeah, they have the best
Yes,
defensemen
that I can
moving
agree.
forward into this tournament, hands down. So
And obviously, going into the last
Yeah.
two guys that are there, Jacob Slavin, we talked about a little bit how him and Hughes could maybe interchangeable. But the one that we have there, Neil Pionk, he's an underrated one. He's a guy that I think as an 8th defenseman, kind of like the PK Subban treatment, where he goes to the Olympics but probably doesn't play.
Yeah.
But he goes there as like insurance in case there's an injury or whatever. I think Neil Pionk's shown enough in Winnipeg this season.
even with the Rangers, he
Yeah,
had
or
a
even
good
with the Rangers,
tenure.
that he may get a look as the 8th defenseman in Team USA. And I would, if he is, I think I think if he does get chosen, that's going to be surprising. People were talking about potentially having Jeff Petrie there. I don't think Jeff Petrie's done enough this season.
Not
And
this season.
even towards the end of last year too,
He's
you
looking
saw it a little
lost.
bit where I don't know if he necessarily makes it, but if he does, it's probably based on experience and then the fact they're going to go with a little bit more of an older caliber defenseman. But I think Neil Pionk takes the edge over Jeff Petrie.
I mean,
in
there's
my
also
opinion.
talk about Ryan McDonough, but like you look at
Yeah,
the
I don't know.
available options, and McDonough is still a capable defenseman, but like look who's in front of him. McDonough, in my opinion, yes, he's still a good defenseman, but I mean, he brings more leadership when comparing him to those guys that are listed on our projected team.
Absolutely.
So, unfortunately, that's why we leave him out. But if there is injuries, I do definitely see Ryan McDonough being the guy to be the first call out to replace any of those guys if they're injured.
Anyways, moving on to the forward core. I don't know if we're gonna. Let's start with the first line. The first
Yeah.
line, I mean, it's pretty straightforward.
Connor Matthews.
Kyle Connor,
Sick
elite
line.
sniper. Austin Matthews, elite sniper. Patrick Kane, elite play,
sniper.
just elite
Playmaker,
player
yeah.
in general. And I
There you
think
go.
that's going to be the line in the States that when they come up against the Canadas, the Russias, the USA, or the Swedens, the Finlands, whatever. That's going to be the line that I think is going to scare a lot of people because that line is really good. And Kyle Connor, to me, I don't think he gets enough praise for how good he actually is. Austin Matthews, we all know how good Austin Matthews is. And Patrick Kane is, Patrick Kane. He's a 3-time Stanley Cup champion. He's been in the Olympics before. He's scored some big goals in his career. So a guy that can be, especially a clutch player for Team USA, Patrick Kane's definitely that guy.
And before we get to the second line, there's no Jack Hughes.
Jack Eichel.
Jack Eichel.
Jack Eichel, because we don't think he's coming back to play.
Well, I don't think we don't
By
think he'll be
then.
ready.
He won't be ready.
Yeah, we don't think he'll be
And I
ready.
don't think he's gonna want to
Well,
jeopardize his season with Vegas, knowing that they could go on a Stanley Cup run
Well, if
just
they-
to play for Team USA when he's not 100%.
Yeah, Jack Eichel, I don't see a situation where he plays for Team USA. Especially, the thing is that the other thing is too with him, it would have to be like, okay, he'd have to come back in January and play a few games before he actually make the team. That's why I don't think it's gonna. I don't think his first game is gonna be with. It would make no sense for him to play his first game with Team USA. So I don't see Jack Eichel making.
That's why their center depth is somewhat weak without him.
But on the second line, obviously second line center, we have Dylan Larkin.
playing a
Dylan
good
Larkin,
season.
huh?
Playing a good season.
He's having fantastic.
Even
season.
last
He's
year,
playing
he played
really
well.
Him and Lucas Raymond.
Ever since he got
together.
named captain, he's been very consistent. In my
I like
opinion.
I like Dylan Larkin a lot, and as a second line center on Team USA, I think it could work. Definitely. We also have
Johnny Gaudreau.
Johnny Gaudreau and
Johnny
Brock
Hockey.
Brock Besser.
Besser.
See, in my opinion, Brock Besser does make Team USA, but if he continues playing the way he has been, I do see TG Oshie, if healthy, or Alex DeBrincat, playing over him.
And I was just thinking about that actually. I think on a second line, instead of having Brock Besser, because like you said, he hasn't had a good season, and I don't know about him. Next to Johnny Gaudreau and Dylan Larkin, I could see Alex DeBrincat playing that second line easily. Right? There's a lot. So like the Quinn Hughes and Jacob Slavin thing, I think we could have the same conversation with DeBrincat and Brock Besser for sure. I think DeBrincat on that second line next to Larkin and Gaudreau, really good balanced second line. Johnny Gaudreau's having a really good resurgence this season. Obviously, he's in a contract year, but he's having a resurgence this season. Dylan Larkin, like we talked about, has been very impressive. And Alex DeBrincat, like again, he's a guy. He's a sniper. He can put the puck in the net. And Brock Besser can too, but Brock Besser's been struggling a little bit more. So I think if they go based on guy with more form and who's playing better at the moment, they may go with Alex DeBrincat on that second line.
And the beauty about this, you could also make a case that Connor drops to the second line and plays right wing, and you have Alex DeBrincat being on the first line. You just remove Brock Besser out of the lineup too.
Not only that, but I've seen a few lineups of other people, and we're gonna get into the fourth line later. But I see a lot of people putting Matthew Tkachuk with Austin Matthews because they've played together before in Team USA. Like on the same line, it would be like Tkachuk, Matthews,
Kane.
Like Connor would drop to second. I don't see that happening because the way he's playing is crazy. But a lot of people have been putting that in.
Like we said about these projection videos, the beauty about this is that there's so much talent on these teams. I mean, at least for the first couple of teams we're going to be talking about.
Yeah.
That there's so many players that are interchangeable that anyone could play with, anyone, at this point. But yes, there is. You can make cases for, the Zach Rowinski and Seth Jones pairing. They played together before for so many years. You're putting Alex DeBrincat on the same line with Patrick Kane. They played together for years, But sometimes it's better to stray away from that and separate those guys and put them with players that they haven't played with before, and someone that fits more of their playing style, and they have a lot of options.
I really like the third line. The third line for me is more of a shutdown third line. The reason why, obviously, Max Pacioretty is not really that great defensively, but Jake Gensel, underappreciated. Yeah. I think, in my opinion, we've seen a lot of Jake Gensel. He's probably one of Pittsburgh's best players, if not. When Sidney Crosby's out there, I think he's Pittsburgh's second best player. I think he's better than Malkin at this point in his career, right?
Yeah.
So there's that. Jake Gensel's really good. I think he's a really good two-way guy to have there. JT Miller at center.
He's a Swiss Army knife. He can play all three positions.
I like JT Miller. He's having a fantastic season in Vancouver, which says a lot because Vancouver isn't doing that great.
Yeah.
And obviously Max Pacioretty.
The
problem with Max Pacioretty, I like him. He's going to make Team USA. No doubt about it. My biggest concern with Max Pacioretty is, can he be healthy enough to make Team USA? We always see Max Pacioretty. He's a good enough player. He's a guy who's going to put the puck in the net. He's a guy who's going to get you points. The problem with Max Pacioretty is he's never able to stay healthy. And I think that in a situation where you have to pick the Olympic team in a month, I'm hoping that he stays healthy enough to make the Olympic team. Because knowing Max Pacioretty, he's the type of guy where he'll come back, get injured, and be out for another month and a half. And that's no disrespect to Max Pacioretty. It's just he hasn't been able to stay healthy lately, and that's the one thing that concerns me when you look at Team USA.
Another thing you could also do, like I was mentioning before, Brock Besser and JT Miller both play with each other in Vancouver.
That's why. So there's line combinations there that we can definitely look at.
Yeah,
for sure. Obviously, we're gonna honorable mention before we go on to the fourth line.
Troy Terry.
You're going to ask about Troy Terry.
Yeah.
I think if he could have a chance, and Pizzuto was talking about this before we actually started this,
right now.
is that
Troy Terry's a beast.
He's
manifesting, guys.
My only concern with Troy Terry is that I think it's more of a one-off more than anything else. Yes, he had a 16-game point.
It's a hot streak, man.
But it's a hot streak.
The guy's a beast, man. Stop it.
He's a beast because he's
playing better than some of the guys that are on the roster
right
now.
Yeah, he also hasn't proven anything
this is
in the last 3 years.
First time he's actually proving something.
It's too early to say. Like that's with Troy Terry. It's more of you have to wait and see what he does for the rest of the year. That's why I don't think he makes Team USA.
There's too many notable names.
I think he's a breakout star.
I disagree, but anyways. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I could be wrong, but
It's a
I
breakout
think
season.
it's just a hot streak. That's what I just
it's a
think it is.
breakout season for him. But is this going to be a
Well, the
continuous
hot
thing within
streak
his
ended,
career?
though.
We don't
Yeah,
know.
it ended at
Nice.
16 games, but now we'll
Yeah.
see.
Yeah.
How long is he gonna go before he gets his next point? It may be a game, it may be 10.
Look, Paul Byron pulled the same thing too at one point in his career.
He had he went on an 11-game point streak. You'd be like, oh my god, and then he didn't score for like 20 games.
Yeah, you know.
Like it happens. Now, if Troy Terry, let's say by the end of the season, Troy Terry gets what 70 points, 80 points, then we can have a different conversation of
yeah,
okay.
that's.
But
holy
until
crap,
then,
that's a nice surprise right there on
It's
the
a
Ducks
bit
team.
until then. It's a bit like okay, let's just relax a bit. Yes, what he did is impressive, but let's just relax.
Like if there's like an injury to Max Pacioretty still, right, and he can't make it, then it's more than likely.
To be honest,
that
I
he
don't
could
know
even
because
make
maybe the
it.
States might go with a younger guy. Maybe they go with Trevor Zegras. Maybe they say, you know what, we'll take Zegras with us, or
Yeah,
we'll
maybe.
take someone else. You
They have
know?
options too.
So
you know?
Clayton Keller, but
No, Keller, no, I don't think so.
they could. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Anyways, moving on to the fourth line, and
I
It's
love
like the
this
Bash.
line.
It's like the Bash Brothers line.
Yeah, I love this line.
This is great, and I love this one
Ducks
because
reference.
Jack Hughes and Kachuk played together. The two Kachuk brothers and Jack Hughes next to each other. Jack Hughes, I think, might even have a chance to play third or second line. But if he doesn't, I think on the fourth line on Team USA would be really fun,
Yeah.
especially playing with the two Bash brothers, right? In Kachuk, both Kachuk brothers, who are just pains in the asses to play against. That line, especially on the fourth line, playing against like a Russia or a Canada, is just going to piss everybody off. Like I could just picture the Kachuk brothers against Team Canada just going and bashing everybody into the boards, like going after Marchand.
That's a
going
line
after,
I think everyone's looking forward to seeing.
that's it. So
Yeah.
that fourth line, I think, is really
be
well
cool.
balanced.
It's literally
And
the
it's good
young guns
chemistry.
line if you really think about it. They're all under
That's
like
it, the young
25 years
guns,
old.
yeah.
The young guns line, and then obviously our last scratch player that we have, TJ Oshie, who's had a really good season, but again with him,
Injury riddled.
injuries. He's only played 9
Last
games.
season, fantastic season for him as well.
That's it. But like he's only played 9 games this year. He's coming back soon. We'll see how he does. But if he's able to stay healthy enough, he may get a call up. But there's also a situation where maybe Team USA does go with Troy Terry and they say, okay, you know what? We're gonna honor this guy because he's got. I don't think they do, but they might.
Nah,
Go with that
TG
route.
Oshie, man. Like I know he's injured
But that's
and
our
whatever.
team for
but,
Team
like,
USA.
You know, like he has leadership qualities. He's been on this team. Let's say if they take penalty shootouts, you know who to rely on.
That's it. They're
Um,
familiar with him.
You know, and he's more than just a penalty shootout guy, and he's proven that with the Washington Capitals. He's won a Stanley Cup with them too, and
That's it.
especially look at last season when Ovi was somewhat injured. TJ Oshie really stepped up and was able to score goals and stuff. Very impressive
Apparently, he
stuff.
wants to be a defenseman too. So
Yeah, he talked
Yeah.
about that. That was kind of funny.
I mean,
But I mean,
he is pretty good defensively.
But that's what I'm saying. He's very defensively
Yeah.
responsible.
played a game on
too.
defense yet? No.
No,
No,
haven't
no,
played. But
no.
he asked. He actually
He
asked.
actually
He was like,
asked.
"Oh, you know what? Like, if you ever let's say there's an injury on defense, like instead of just call up a forward, you play him forward, you put me defense." Like he actually talked about that with the coach. I don't know if they're ever gonna do it,
No.
but but he has talked about his desire to play defense one time, which would be really
Maybe
cool.
if Ovi's like injured and they have to put someone at the point or something, maybe like on the power play.
Yeah, I don't know,
But
but that was
I don't
funny
really
when I
think
saw that. I
so.
was like, oh my god, that's pretty cool. But yeah, that's our Team USA team.
My question now is, would they make it to the finals versus Canada, or are they forced to play against each other at the semifinals?
Well, they're in the same group, so I don't know if they play each other in the semifinals. I don't know how that would work.
I don't think they would face each other in the
I don't think they would.
finals.
I think they would face each other in the finals
Yeah, they would.
because I think what would happen is I think it's the top 2 teams of every group that go through, and so I think because they're the second team, I think they would be put in a different bracket.
Top 2.
I don't know how it works
There's
exactly.
only 8 teams, right?
There's 3 groups of 4. There's 12
So
teams
there's
total.
12 teams.
12 teams total, but 2 of them make it. So then there's
What do you mean 2?
or 3 of them make it. Sorry,
Yeah.
top 3 make it. Yeah,
Yeah. Top 3.
top 3 make it, and the last team goes away. So let's say it would be China because Germany would make it third, right? Let's be honest,
I know it's sad.
right?
But yeah, there could always be an upset. You never know. I mean, it's unscouted territory.
Yeah.
Who knows?
for-
What if there's
for
a
sure,
Chinese
yeah.
Crosby out there?
Well,
I don't know
apparently,
about
actually,
that.
rumor has it. This has nothing to do with Team USA, but apparently, rumor has it that the China, because of the fact that there's a team in the KHL that's part of China, like the Chinese
Okay.
whatever. They might just make that KHL team represent China at the Olympics. So essentially, it's going to be a KHL team made up of a bunch of North American Chinese descent players, and then like a bunch of Russians playing for Team China.
It's like Russia.
It's a bit
2.0.
weird. Yeah, it's a bit weird. But either way, I still
Well,
think they would
technically
lose.
Russia is in Asia, like part of it.
But that's what I'm saying.
Oh,
I think
God.
either way, I still think China would get killed. But like that's besides the point.
It's
That's
kind of
just what I
pathetic, in my
read,
opinion.
which would be hilarious.
Make their guys represent their actual country
I just don't think
opposed to
China should be
Russians.
there. Listen. Norway was the last team
Wait.
to miss
When,
out.
when I'm at, like, it's Chinese, or like they're born in
Okay,
China playing in a KHL
no.
team.
Okay, so basically it's
Like they moved in the Russian.
okay because
like,
they're in the Continental Hockey League, right? Which is the KHL, which is
Yeah.
like the Russian league
Yeah.
essentially. Well, there's a Chinese team in the Russian league, and the players that play on that team are of Chinese descent. Doesn't mean they were born in China. It means some of them are like North American but have Chinese heritage.
Ah.
And then some of them are Chinese players, and then some of them are Russian players. Like there's 1 or 2 Russian players or 3 Russian players on that
Well,
team.
as we continue these videos, we'll be
But like their
getting more
goalie is
into it.
Chinese. Their one of their goalies is like just pure American, and that's it.
So it's like Batherson to play in Canada.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
to
exactly.
address that. I know maybe there's a couple of viewers are like confused on the fact that we said Jake Batherson would be playing for Team Canada opposed to Team USA, even though he's born in the States. Well, he has a dual citizenship, and he has represented Team Canada in the World Juniors. So
He actually
I'm-
grew up in Germany for a while.
Well, he grew up in Germany and
Yeah.
Canada
Yeah.
because his dad used to play hockey in Germany. So he grew up in Germany and then he grew up in Canada too.
I don't know how the rules
So-
work exactly, but I think because he previously represented Canada, I think he would have to be nominated to Team Canada's team opposed to Team USA.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to say thank you so much, guys, for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Share this video to anyone that's interested in the 2022 Beijing Olympics and is from the United States and is looking forward to seeing a projected Team USA lineup. And we're going to be talking about Russia this Thursday. So we're looking forward to that. And thank you so much, and stay tuned for the next episode.